Backcountry riding, I mean, it's amazing, right? There's no better feeling, but when things go wrong, it's really important to have the right equipment. So today we're gonna go over all of the things, guys, not just the beacon probe shovel, right? But everything that we carry on our sleds, in our backpacks, and all the different packs throughout the snowmobile so that we can stay safe while riding. All right, everybody. So we'll start with the backpack, right? We're a mountain rider. If you've been to Next Level, you'll hear me talk about the 5 basic things that we need to even call ourselves backcountry riders, right? It starts with our beacon, our probe, shovel, backpack, and then some form of communication, which in this case on this setup right here is my BC Link radio. So your backpack, guys, what we carry in the pack, it's essential. It's stuff that if I ever get separated from the snowmobile, I need this stuff with me. So if it's an avalanche rescue, you know, right here at the red tabs, everybody is kind of cluing into this idea that even if we haven't had that discussion, I can turn to you and say, hey, open up that red zipper. And right there, I've got my necessary avalanche shovel, my probes. You zip that back up. It's the only thing that's in that section of the pack. And then we move further into the pack, guys. Inside here, we've done plenty of backpack reviews. I've got a headlamp, so I've got a source of light. I've got a SAM splint. I've got a small first aid kit. I've got a pocket flare. I've got some latex gloves. I've got a number of different things within the pack that still keeps it relatively light so that I can carry it on my pack all day and not feel that fatigued. But man, there's some necessary stuff in this. A backpack is something that you will always have this sort of mental Rolodex of what's in the pack. And that's what makes riding with the pack so great is, man, I'm leaving the trailer, I'm leaving the shop, I just throw this puppy on and I already know what's in this thing. And there's a lot of life-saving, really protective things that are within this to help save my life or someone else's. All right, so on the back of the sled, guys, I've got my Skins Next Level waterproof QR tunnel bag. These bags have been really good. They come in 2 sizes. On my guide sled, I'm running the smaller size, but man, we can fit a lot of stuff in here. So immediately, I've got some gloves. We just came into the backcountry. These are my ride-in, ride-out gloves, the Climate Shorts. We've had a glove video before, talked about the ride-in, ride-out gloves. Always important to have a really good, thick, insulated pair of gloves if, in fact, we had to stay overnight and or it just got cold out. So insulated gloves. I've got a insulated mid-layer, keeping my body, my core temperature warm. A lot of times the weather changed for the worst. I have to stay out here. My blood cools down. I'm all of a sudden stopped. Really helpful to have a mid-layer of some kind that you can just wad up and put into a tunnel bag. This is stuff, guys, that if I take off me, it's going in my backpack or it's going into something waterproof. I do not hang this on a limb somewhere like I'm going to come back and get it. We did that a long time ago and we're not doing that now. So when we pack all of this stuff, it's great to just mentally prepare, oh yeah, I've got that mid-layer on. I certainly better have room somewhere for it to be. So mid-layer, that's really helpful. Gloves, guys, for days. And I know this is kind of perfect timing. We just launched the glove video. The KLIM GTX gloves. These are my riding gloves, waterproof. These things rip. But I carry multiple pairs. As a guide, I'm not just carrying gloves for me. I'm carrying gloves for that client that has wet or cold hands. I've got a couple of pairs of gloves in there. I've got another hat besides this hat. If there's somebody else, again, that needs a hat. And you could use a hat for all kinds of things. Man, you didn't have gloves, you did whatever. A hat's a really good thing to have. I've got a bit bigger balaclava. Big trail ride out where it really does get cold out and I don't just need like a neck gaiter or something like that. Balaclava is a good thing to keep into there. And then we'll get into the tools and some of my, I would say, extended first aid or even survival gear. Right, so the toolkit, guys. This is this little tool bag that KLIM gives you when you get one of the Atlas or the, the 16-liter pack. And this has become a great bag to hold some tools. And so necessary tools that I carry, I carry various Allens, various torque sets, crescent wrench, which is basically a wrench for everything, a couple of sockets, a couple of torque setups over here that are specific to the sled so that I can change spark plugs, I can tighten most things. I got a Phillips, a flathead. I do carry a multi-tool in another part of the bags that we'll talk about, but a pretty basic toolkit, mostly for Polaris sleds. And with the crescent wrench and some of this stuff, I mean, will work on other manufacturers too. You don't need a ton of tools, you just need the right tools for the job. So over the years, we have, kind of figured out when stuff happens out here, We know what tools are kind of necessary to make those things happen. And then, yeah, you have something happen that's just kind of throws you and you don't have those tools for it. Having some tie wire, having a way to cut the tie wire, like a Leatherman or pair of needle nose or some, you know, some type of snips. Always important to try to do some sort of MacGyver once you're out here, you know, if something like that happens, and still get that snowmobile back home. All right, so next on the list, and by the way, for those of you that are always thinking weight, know that I have weighed all of this. So I've taken everything that was in this tunnel bag and put it on the scale, and it was 8.56 pounds. So it's quite a bit of stuff to carry behind the seat, especially when you're gonna have stuff in your under seat bag and things like that. But guys, this is necessary equipment that from years of doing this, years of being a rider, but then also years of being a guide. This is all stuff that is very important to me. I'm not gonna leave the trailhead, not gonna leave the trailer, not gonna leave my shop without it. So we got the tools taken care of. These were given to me, guys, by some pretty amazing people over the years that are, you know, paramedics, they're EMTs, they're guys that do a lot of this stuff as a job for a living. So I've got this really cool trauma kit. Inside you've got some gloves, some quick clot, you've got a tourniquet, some other things like that. This one is kind of a simplified little kit that is very important to me if I did have somebody that you know, had a bad break or a heavy bleed, something like that. Having a kit that I can just grab, throw it to somebody else, and get that to that injured person. Great thing to keep with me. This other one, and you guys can hear that thing Velcros down into there so it doesn't move around. This is an awesome first aid kit that I just got from my buddy Rick from Altitude Sickness, who this is what he specializes in and is doing courses all about what's inside of his trauma kit. And as this unfolds, guys, you can see here we've got some trauma shears, I've got another tourniquet, the pen and paper so you can kind of write down someone's vitals. If you were doing some sort of soap note or report, you've got some tape, I've got some gauze. We're working with somebody and we need to use a rebreather. This stuff all kind of nestled down inside of this kit is really important to somebody like me in the event of an avalanche or some type of an injury. Having all of this stuff right here in my tunnel bag, ready to grab at a moment's notice. There's some Tylenol, some NSAID, some other sort of low-dose stuff, ibuprofen, things like that we can have in here too. And there's actually quite a bit of room within this bag that we could store a few more things. Within the first aid kit that I carry in my backpack, some things that I've added to my first aid kit would be things like super glue, a tampon to use as fire starter, a whistle. You guys will notice that in a lot of first aid kits that you're bringing into the backcountry, there's things like sting relief. We probably don't need that in the wintertime. So there are things that you could maybe take out of your first aid kit, but then looking at your first aid kit and what could potentially happen in the winter, in the wilderness, you know, you could add quite a few things to it. And that's what we have done is each and every year, whether it's through clientele giving us ideas or just doing our research on our own, you know, finding out what we know works for us is really important. And this is the stuff that we're going to bring every single day we go into the backcountry. All right, next on the list, we finished up the QR bag, the under seat bag, guys, that you get from Polaris. I keep some food, I keep my garbage in there. This is a water resistant bag, so most of the time it ends up being a spot where it's kind of a catch-all for a lot of things. I do put my tea in there. So having hot liquid on the mountain, pretty fantastic. You ever had to stay overnight? You could, obviously, if you didn't have any more water, you could use this thing and heat up some snow and have some drinking water with it. But hot tea on the mountain, hot Russian tea, as I tell people, that's my secret to how I ride. So I always have tea in here and get a lot of people asking me, well, what is the Russian tea? And it's just Lipton tea, but I make it believable enough. But having some warm liquid, pretty helpful on the mountain. So that's where I'll keep that in the under seat bag. All of my wet gloves, so everything that once I'm done using them and I know I'm not going to grab those things again, I usually store those so that I can separate my wet versus the dry. All right, so moving forward on the machine, the sled solutions, this is the quick lock handlebar bag. I do like this bag. The fact that it can come off, you can use the bags on other sleds if you just had the mounting system. I like it because there's weight into these bags that's right over the center of the sled. In fact, when you hang a sled, it's typically right here near the handlebars. So you're right in the center of the snowmobile, which is really important in terms of dispersing the weight. So we don't have so much weight back there and forward. This puts that weight right over the center of the sled. In the handlebar bag, you never believe it, I've got another hat. Lots of hats for me. My neck gaiter. This is where I'm putting all my odds and ends, all my secret food that lets me do hopovers. But in here, I will carry a Leatherman. So I've got a Leatherman on the one side. On the other side, in these little storage bags, I will carry my wet fire bricks, like we talked about in how to build a backcountry fire. I don't rely on just one source of being able to light a fire. So I've got my butane torch like we used in that other video. I've got just a basic lighter. And then I've got this like forever match. This thing is really cool. So this thing you just out here and it'll just continue to light and just makes a fire. Blow it out, makes a fire. Just continue to do that. And that's kind of cool. So I'm not going to be out here and not have a fire if I need one, right? So I keep those things right there at my handlebar bag, and that makes it really easy to get to, makes it really easy for somebody else to get to. In the front of this, you guys, you can tell it was designed to put a pair of goggles in there. I put a pair of goggles. I'll either put them in a tunnel bag because I do like carrying a spare pair. I do have an underhood goggle bag that we'll show you guys here in a second. Up here, I will put my Spot X. I will also put my sat phone. So 2 forms of communication so that I can stay in contact with my outside support group. We've talked about that in earlier videos. Really important. What is nice about this is I could hand this to someone else that was traveling away from me, something like that. Having both of these is pretty important. And then we do have a spot on another rider as we go out. So because everybody was always like, well, if you're the only one carrying this communication and something happens to you, what happens to the rest of the group? So we do split that up, which I think is pretty helpful and essential to the rider. So we put that stuff there. This other bag that's here, this other section of the bag is where I will keep my cell phone. And what's kind of pertinent information about that is we've had this discussion about our cell phones being close to our transceivers in the event that we're out there and we're searching. Remember that when we're talking about interference with our transceivers, with any other form of two-way communication, our phones, even in airplane mode, we're not trusting it. And everything that we talk about is within about 19 or 20 inches away from our transceiver in search mode. So if my phone is on me and I'm out with my transceiver looking for something, I think it's well within that 20 or 19 inches away. So I just leave my phone, I leave it on, and I will leave it in my handlebar bag, and it's protected in here because I do like taking photos and video and doing that through my classes and even when I'm just out with my boys. So keeping that there, I step away from the sled, which I would want to anyway. Sled powered down so there's no electromagnetic interference. Take my transceiver out, I'm well outside of that range, and boom, I go on with my search. So great spot right there, and just a recommendation for all of you where you're gonna leave your phone. Quit leaving it on you, leave it on the sled, step away from the sled. You have no outside interference, transceivers in search mode will work properly. All right, all the way up front, guys, the next level windshield bag on the Polaris snowmobile, to me, has been one of our most popular selling bag. We developed this way back on the Pro RMKs, so all the way back in 11. Wanted to replace the low windshield with something that had some storage, and so the windshield bag, and you can get the windshield bag in the helium hoods, which is really nice. And so I'll keep my GoPro, or in this case, my action cam, on my dango mount. Got to have one of those. Makes it so nice as you pull it out and you want to put it somewhere. I just clip it there. Believe it or not, guys, this is where I'll keep my drinking water. When you're outside, it's cold, it's wintertime, it's pretty tough to drink freezing cold water out here. And because the windshield bag is vented and you're riding around, it's actually it's not heating up the water to where it's hot water, but it's making it kind of lukewarm, makes it a lot easier to drink. So I keep a few bottles of water up here, and that makes it really nice for me. I will also keep a pole rope, a couple other things, some stuff like that up into here, guys. Great spot to put your water, great spot to put your GoPros with lithium batteries or any of these types of things. I'll get the shot, and then we all know how those things work in the cold. It's nice to stuff that down in there. It's collecting a little bit of that engine heat, and it keeps those batteries just dialed. All right, everybody, that's a wrap. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope this was helpful, kind of going through this. And bear in mind, guys, this is a guide sled. So I ride this on personal days, but I do most of this, have most of this thing set up because I'm guiding people. So at Next Level, we're doing 15 to 18 riding clinics throughout our season. So roughly 120, 140 people out here in the backcountry. A lot of people kind of first round, they don't know what to pack. So I am bringing a lot of this stuff as a guide, and there are some extras that are within this. So, is before you make the comment of, oh my God, I need to pack all that stuff, remember that I am using this as a guide sled. But the other takeaway is with any of this first aid stuff that I've carried, remember that None of that stuff. You can buy, I mean, Visa takes care of a lot of these things, right? Capital One, all these, they take care of buying all of this stuff that we wear on us or we put into our bags. Without the training, it's not going to do us a whole lot of good. So the recommendation for me will be obviously on the avalanche side, taking a level 1 avalanche course, as well as on the first aid side, having some type of first aid course, whether you take an online first aid, you do a 3-day wilderness first aid, or go as far as what I have done and continue to research, where we did an 80-hour program, a 10-day consecutive wilderness first response course. All of those courses, along with so much of that stuff that you learn that's all scenario, there's so many things that you do that are just in the field practices about how to treat people. What you really take away from it is what to pack, why you pack it, where it should be, and all of those things. So over the years, that's what I have continued to do. And the more I practice, the more I find that having this equipment, having all of these things, I may not ever need them out here. We may just stay riding safe and everything could just be 100% fine every time I come out here. But in the event that it isn't, I can be prepared. You guys, thanks so much for watching. Remember to leave those questions and comments about what you guys carry in your packs and your tunnel bags, your handlebar bags. I know we got a lot of them, but leave those below and we'll see you next time.